Final round.
Power.
Nice shot.
KO.
Welcome to Gaymer Girls.
All right.
Okay, well, we're recording, and I think we're ready to go.
All right. Welcome to Gaymer Girls, the gaming podcast full of nerd news and lore lectures for the girls and the gamers. I'm Sana.
I'm Van.
And
what kind of episode do we have ready for us today, Sana?
Okay, so we are recording this on January 16th, and 2 days ago, America time, Honkai Star Rail released version 3.0, which is like their third major patch, update, expansion, whatever you want to call it. And as a serious Honkai Star Rail fan, I've been playing since week 1 of the game.
Okay.
I thought this would be a fun one to start on.
I'm really excited. I know nothing.
Yeah.
I did not know how to spell Honkai till I needed to save the project on our recording.
It's okay. I still don't 100% understand what Honkai means.
Okay.
Like as a word in the game.
Got it. It's in the game though.
It's in the title.
It is the title.
But I need to do like a little bit of like an introduction,
I'm ready
a history lesson. So first, how familiar are you with gacha games?
I know that they're sort of a lottery or betting based game where you can randomly get certain things. I know like the gachapon, like actual machines better, I think, than I know gacha games.
Yeah, so like gacha comes from gachapon. So you're like 100% correct on that. So like that's where the word comes from. And so it's basically a system of put in currency, get a random prize.
Okay.
These types of games where you use in-game currency to get, in a lot of these games, it's limited characters.
Okay.
Or like the characters that you get and you play with are the random thing you're going for.
Oh, okay.
And then different characters have different rarities attached to them.
Yes.
And that also tells you whether or not they're available all the time year round or if they're only available during a certain window of time.
Aren't there's a little baby doll toys that people are trying to collect all the different ones.
Oh, like are you talking about those like mystery box
Yes,
toys?
and the little itty bitty ugly babies.
Yes.
Okay. So that type of system where you're trying to get the certain type of character.
Basically, yeah, and there's like rarities attached to them.
Got it.
But unlike the box toys, there is an in-game system. We call it pulling on a banner because the banner is the character that you're going for because it's like a character banner.
Cool.
And so there's like a built-in pity system of like at a certain point you will get the one.
Oh, when you've paid enough money.
When you've paid enough money, either in-game or out of game.
Do they all have their own little currencies for these types of games where you can convert real money into the game currency to buy, like League of Legends?
Yes. So it's exactly the same way where it's like you pay money for a specific in-game currency and then you use that in-game currency to get another in-game currency to like actually get the like wishes for.
I'm following.
It's a whole system. There's like usually like 5 different currencies going on that are all working together. But besides that, just a little bit of a background on Honkai Star Rail.
Yes.
It's a free-to-play role-playing gacha game developed by miHoYo, and it was published in China under miHoYo and published internationally by Cognosphere, also known as Hoyoverse, on April 26th, 2023. So this is like a pretty, I would say, as far as Hoyoverse games, this is like one of the more recent ones. Okay, because they have a long line.
Yes, I know the Hoyoverse, I think.
Yeah. So like they've done Genshin Impact, they've done Zenless Zone Zero. But the Honkai games, from my understanding, Honkai Star Rail is like the 4th game in the Honkai series.
Okay.
But it's kind of like one of those parallel universe theory stuff where like you'll see characters that look like characters from the other games. Maybe they share the same name, but like they're not the same person. Okay. And they don't share the same memories and experiences, but it's like in a parallel universe they were experiencing something else, or they've maybe interacted with each other. Yeah.
That's really fun. Okay.
Yeah. So, and in like the gaming terms, they're called XPs or exported characters. So like
Cool. How do you spell XP?
it's like EXPY.
XP. Okay.
XP,
Got
yeah,
it.
exactly. The game is available on a bunch of different platforms, including PC. And PC is either through Epic Game Store or you can download it from their own launcher. That's personally how I prefer to do it. PlayStation 5, iOS mobile, and Android devices.
Oh, so it's a mobile game too.
Yeah. So actually, and a bunch of awards that it's gotten are actually related to its mobile port.
Oh.
Yeah. It's also was built in Unity Engine. And just to give you like a little synopsis, this
Okay.
one's more of like a sci-fi game where everybody follows something called a path. And so paths are like an ideology represented by these godlike beings called aeons.
Cool.
And so they represent like really big ideal stuff: preservation, abundance.
They're the gods of those domains.
Exactly.
Basically.
And then there will be a bunch of different organizations that follow, or like groups of people who follow the paths of certain aeons. So everyone follows these paths, which are these ideologies represented by godlike beings called aeons. And you, the player, are one of these path striders, a follower of the dead aeon Akavili. And
Ooh,
yes, there are
that sounds
alive
hardcore.
aeons, there are dead aeons, and then I'm pretty sure there are like lost aeons where it's like we're not sure what's up with them or where they are or what they're doing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it equivalent to like, I don't know, these are gods. These are gods where, you know, people no longer follow their churches or belief systems. Is that like a dead aeon or
No, because people will follow dead aeons.
Okay.
It's just like they are continuing to follow their ideals even if they no longer exist in the universe.
So the being aeon is like that's a physical character. That's a
Yeah.
person or a thing.
It's a thing, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Like the Aeon of Preservation is this giant rock guy.
Down. He's
yeah.
the rock.
He's called the Amber Lord.
Okay.
So he's, you know, this giant amber big
Lord.
thing. Yeah. So they can look human, they can look less human, you know. But we follow the dead Aeon Akavili, which represents the path of the Trailblaze. And basically, your story, you get to choose a male or female character at the start of the game. It's the same person, essentially. But you wake up in a space station with no memory of who you are while you're under the attack of the forces of a group that follow the Aeon of Destruction. You have no choice but to fend off the attacking forces and to team up with the people on the ship in order to get out safely. After all this, you join the members of the Astral Express, who follow the Star Rail, which is like these silver rails that the Aeon Akavili has laid down on their travels to go from planet to planet, working together to end Stellaron disasters, aka world-ending calamities, or just, you know, other shit that happens on those planets that you guys need to go help with.
I had no idea. It's a space odyssey?
It's a space odyssey.
I was thinking old-timey, like, you know, almost a medieval fantasy.
No, this is fully like
they're in space.
This is a space odyssey. You are jumping from planet to planet, solving problems on each of these different worlds.
Immediately more interested.
Yeah. But the big thing with, you know, this whole mystery, with all of these, you know, going from planet to planet, solving these Stellaron disasters with the Astral Express is why you have a Stellaron inside of you.
A Stellaron.
Like, yeah. So, like, why is this world-ending calamity thing that has been destroying planets also inside your chest?
So we're the problem.
Well, not yet.
Not yet. Not yet. Okay.
Yeah. As you go through the game, also with the gacha system, all these different characters that show up in the story, you can add them to your team. And there's a bunch of different...
you collect little guys?
You collect guys, exactly. That's kind of like the big thing in this game. You have this blend of the main story itself, as well as the gameplay mechanics, which involves pulling on different character banners, getting those characters, and putting teams together with them.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So the game's main, like, gameplay style is basically follows your classic turn-based JRPG, where you have a team of 4. You probably have a few people who are more, like, support characters, healers or shielders or buffers, and then you have your main units who are attacking, and you can sort of put them together in a bunch of different ways, and they all have synergy with each other in some sort of way. There's some characters who focus on dot mechanics, which is basically debuffing enemies that do damage over time.
Okay.
And then there's also the characters who just do giant damage with their hits, and you're just really just building crit on them.
Big one-shot boys.
Exactly.
What type of is it a turn-based fighting game?
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, so there's a turn order. Speed is also a stat in this game, so that means like how fast or often does this character react depends on their speed stat.
So it's not like a Dungeons and Dragons speed where it's like your movement speed. This is your reaction speed.
Yeah, this is basically like initiative.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's basically an initiative list, and your speed stat determines where you are on initiative.
Okay,
when
cool.
battle starts.
For any viewers or listeners who do not know, initiative is the order in which you take your turn in combat, generally found in Dungeons and Dragons.
Exactly. But it's not like you have to roll each time. It's just, it's set. Like if you have a speed of like 160, you're probably going to be first in order.
So I have an idea of the breadth of those stats, like how high does speed go?
Generally speaking, you don't build higher than I think 161. If you're building a character, that speed is specifically the stat you want to go for.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Now there are buffing characters that will target an ally player and say, hey, I'm moving you up in the turn order so you can act now.
Okay, cool.
So then you don't even have to worry about speed on that character because you have someone else saying, hey, you can take your turn earlier.
Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Get it?
No, I got it.
That's what I'm here for.
Yeah, all puns. It's too easy.
It's a little too easy.
It's too easy.
Yeah.
We talked about gachapon earlier, and I want to talk a little bit about that as well because it really does play into a lot of the mechanics of this, and also I would say some of the flaws of the game as well.
Okay.
So gacha, as we said before, is a shortened term from gachapon, which refers to those capsule toy machines where you pull a crank, get a random prize. And while this was popularized in Japan, the term and style of getting random items in exchange for currency has become extremely popular in a lot of free-to-play games as a way to monetize.
Yes. I mean, right off the bat, I'm thinking League of Legends with the skins, right?
That would be like the most recent example. They literally have banners that you wish on now.
Oh, wow.
Except instead of characters, it's skins.
Okay.
And they try to make it so like those skins are a little more exclusive, very high quality.
Yeah, isn't there a Jinx skin that was like $300 or something?
I think you were paying about $300 if you didn't get it early.
Got it. Right.
Yeah, because the way that a lot of these pity systems work is you can do 80 pulls on a banner, and if you haven't gotten it in those 80 pulls, you have like an increased percentage chance with subsequent pull, and then by the time you've hit 90, at the very least, you've had a guarantee.
Okay, cool. And a pull is just every time you go to try and get a new character or skin or banner.
Yeah, each game kind of has their own language for it. I've heard wishing on banners, pulling on banners.
Okay.
It's all kind of a little interchangeable. Overwatch did it also with loot boxes.
Right. Yeah. Doesn't Fortnite do something like that as well?
I'll be honest, I don't play enough Fortnite to tell you.
Okay, that's fine. That's probably for the better.
Yeah. But like Teamfight Tactics also does it. But basically it's incentivizing players to spend more money to get what seems to be a special and exclusive item. And that exclusivity also comes from how much time do you have for this to even be available to pull.
Mm-hmm.
I got a little bit of data from a site called Sensor Tower, which is a data analytics site that estimates app revenue based on charts and other metrics. And please keep in mind, this is not like an accurate number. We don't actually have Hoyoverse's.
We don't have their primary like books, basically.
Yeah, we don't have their financial information, and this is purely going off of app revenue. It is estimated that Star Rail's monthly revenue can be anywhere between 20 million to over 100 million a month.
What?
Yeah.
And I mean, this is played internationally, yes?
Yeah. So I'm not sure if they're going through all app stores or just US or just China, but like...
Wow, I had no idea there was like this much of a market for that.
Oh no, it's huge.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Obviously, depending on how desirable the character is that are available, that number can change dramatically.
What are the pulls for the banners in Honkai? Is it like character stats, or is it like design? Is it how they
It's
look?
characters.
Okay.
It's characters. So each character has their own kit, their own gameplay style.
Are there sexy ladies?
Oh, so many.
Okay.
Yeah,
good.
actually, we're going to talk about some sexy
Oh, okay.
ladies
I'll let
in
you
a
get
bit.
to it.
There's also some sexy guys.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Equality.
But yeah, you have all sorts of characters, and you really can see and this is kind of one of the flaws of Star Rail, I would say, in comparison to other gacha games like Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves. Wuthering Waves is different. Kuro Games does that one, but when it comes to turn-based combat, there is no skill expression
Oh, okay.
because it's all math. Everyone is acting in a specific turn order. Your stats are related to what gear you have on those characters. So obviously if you have better or worse gear, you'll be doing more or less damage. But because it's all math, stuff like meta teams becomes a lot more important.
Okay, cool.
So in a game like Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves, you can have an F tier character.
That's a very low tier
Yeah, like a
character.
low tier
Yes.
character with terrible items. Technically speaking, if you play well, you're dodging enemy attacks or you have good items, you can get through pretty difficult content without having like what is considered the meta team. But that doesn't really work as well
in reality.
In Star Rail because it's a turn-based game.
And so
there's no skill expression.
Right. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. And can you break down skill expression for people who may not know that terminology?
So skill expression is basically how well do you play the game.
Sure, it's your own personal ability,
Yeah.
literally the expression of your skill in
Exactly.
the battle. Okay, cool.
So like that's how well can you dodge? How well can you counterattack?
Okay.
How well can you set up combos? Genshin Impact has an elemental reaction system.
Mm-hmm.
Certain elemental reactions, if you set them up and combo them correctly, even if you're not using top tier characters, if you know how to do it well and you're not getting hit in the face every couple of seconds and getting interrupted out of your movement, you can clear pretty hard content.
Okay.
Granted, how difficult that is can depend on who you're running, who the characters are, etc., etc. But I've seen some like pretty crazy clear videos with people using characters that are not considered to be very good.
And absolutely winning.
Exactly.
Doing well.
But when it comes to turn-based combat, it's a lot of math. Are my characters strong enough together to beat this enemy?
Mm-hmm.
There's no dodging. There's no counterattacking. You can't really do that. So there is a little bit more rigidity when it comes to team building, which means even if you, let's say, you don't like a character very much, you don't really want to pull for them, but all of this spreadsheet people who are calculating all of these numbers and everything are saying, hey, this is the best support for this character, or oh, this is the best hyper carry main DPS for all the supports you have on your account.
Okay.
Then you go, well, if I want to clear the hardest content,
you have to get character.
So it becomes a lot more difficult to not fall into that. Which
does that take any of the fun out of it?
It can. I don't get bothered by it because I don't care about clearing the highest content. I'll live. It's fine.
That's a good way to go about things. We gotta stop caring, guys.
I don't get all the in-game currency, so maybe I have less wishes by the time the next banner comes around, but I can deal with it. It's not a huge deal.
Okay.
For other people, that's really important, and so it can feel a little more stressful. There has definitely been power creep.
Okay.
With all of these characters that have been coming up, which is also kind of introducing that problem of like, I have to pull for this person if I want them to be good.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's sort of an internal peer pressure.
Exactly. Which is unfortunate. You can still play the game and ignore it and it's totally fine, but it is definitely a clear flaw that this game has, and it wouldn't be right to talk about it and not also discuss those types of issues.
We're objective journalists here at Gaymer Girls, so we like to discuss every aspect of a video
stress
game.
On objective, less of a stress on journalists.
Maybe more of a stress on subjective. These are our personal opinions and views.
definitely something to keep in mind if you are interested in starting to play this game, or if you are a longtime player and you're like, I don't know, my Jing Yuan just isn't doing as much damage as Firefly. That's going to happen. Those are both characters.
Great. I'll put a graphic up on the screen.
You can use special in-game currency to receive these characters to build your team. And on top of that, you can farm for gear to make sure they have good stats. There's a bunch of different gear options that you can farm for. Each different ones will be better for different characters.
And farming in this instance is just like putting your wishes or your bets on the banner and the character?
So farming is like you put your team together and you enter these things called, well, in HSR, they're called calyxes. They're called domains in other games. But basically, they're like these little mini instances where you have to fight a bunch of enemies.
Oh.
And then once you fight those enemies, you get gear in return or character level up material.
Oh, it's like XP farming, defeating a bunch of like little dudes.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So instead of XP, it can be a bunch of different things, whether it be level up materials. Oh, it can also be XP materials to like level up your characters.
There is an experience level in this game as well.
Yeah, but you don't farm experience by doing content like most normal games. You level up your characters by getting these XP materials to then level your characters up with them.
Copy that.
Yeah. Because the XP you get from just like killing enemies out in the world is
negligible.
That is not like it's so little, it's not even worth it.
Okay. Is it worth it early in the game or okay? No. Flat out.
Not at all. But the farming system is actually pretty nice in this. You can basically like auto battle your team and just like put it off in the background. So it's pretty.
It's like when I send my Pokemon out to battle other Pokemon and I don't have to deal with all that while I'm going on my little adventure in Pokemon Violet. Okay.
Yeah, so it's like literally what I'll do is I'll set it up on my computer. I'll hit auto battle. I'll go into the kitchen, make some coffee.
Oh, you literally will leave.
I will literally leave. And then I'll come back every once in a while to just say like, okay, refarm, start it again.
Yeah.
And you kind of get like a certain amount of like daily energy points to spend on these. So that's how it kind of keeps it as like a daily thing. It's pretty like simple and it doesn't like take too much energy to do that.
Cool.
Basically, a lot of these gacha games have these things called dailies. You go and do these little daily quests or daily objectives.
Yeah. Okay. To get you playing the game every day.
Yeah, exactly. But for like HSR, it's so fast, it's so easy, it takes me like 5 minutes, maybe less. If you want like a game that's like casual, that maybe you pop in to maybe do the main story quest, but you don't want to spend a lot of other time every single day grinding it.
Yeah.
This one's a pretty chill one.
Okay.
Yeah. So the next thing is that every single character follows a path and has an element attached to them. And this is like the really big thing that this game unique in these mechanics.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
The element
And the path.
Okay.
So elements are important in the sense that bosses and enemies have a weakness bar.
Okay.
You have
Is it a health bar?
No, they have a weakness bar and a health bar.
Okay.
So the weakness bar is almost like an extra shield, and the only way to break it is to have a corresponding element that weakness bar is weak to hit it. So you might see a fire symbol on top of a character. That usually there's like 2 to 3 different elements that it'll be weak to. So let's say this one is like fire and lightning. Mm-hmm. You'll probably want to take characters into the battle that either do fire or lightning damage to more easily break weakness bar, to break the health bar faster.
Okay, cool.
That's the element part. There's not really an interaction between the elements in the same way there is in like Genshin Impact. But elements are important for that sense. Mm-hmm. There are some characters that they do elemental weakness implant.
What?
Let's say I bring a team in. I have like an all fire team and none of the enemies are fire weak.
Okay.
There are certain characters that can use their special skill to say, you're now fire weak.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So you can impose a condition upon them,
exactly.
Basically. Okay.
But only certain characters can do that. So it's kind of like depending on what characters you have and what teams you're putting together, that can kind of change.
Can you build multiple teams out at once, or are you sort of switching in and out characters from your main set of spots?
You can have multiple teams ready to go.
Okay.
So like usually there's like a bunch of different play styles in the games. Like I've talked about dots, I've talked about hyper carries. There's also a follow-up attack style, which is basically certain characters that upon using skills will then attack again under certain conditions.
Oh, cool. Okay.
And then there's also another archetype called break characters. These ones are specifically focused on making sure that the weakness bar is broken as fast as possible to do really big damage once it breaks.
Okay.
So you can have a bunch of different teams that all follow these different sort of play styles and archetypes all set up, and you can sort of switch between them at any time.
Cool.
Like, I've been playing since launch, so I have like 5 different teams that I can just sort of like
and
switch
how many
between.
people per team? Is it a set number?
It's 4 people.
4 people. Okay, cool. So you got 20 dudes ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, granted, there's some repeats between the teams.
Oh, got it.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, so
like,
you can have multiple of the same character
in different teams. Yeah,
okay,
exactly.
Cool.
But you can have a bunch of different teams set up of different variations of those characters.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the next big thing is the character path. So
this is the main story?
No, the paths are one of the main mechanics. In the way that in D&D you have different classes, like you have paladin and fighter, we have paths in HSR. And so that basically dictates what play style this person has.
Whether you're doing like long range damage or melee damage.
For the most part, sort of. The path of the hunt. If a character is the path of a hunt, it means that they are focused on single target damage and only single target. They don't have anything that involves multi-target. There are technically like asterisks on that under special circumstances, you know, but they only focus on single target damage. Path of erudition, multi-target.
Okay.
For the most part, nihility characters are focusing on debuffs. This can either be debuffing units, having synergy with debuffs, or focusing on dot mechanics.
Okay, cool. And debuffs are just like taking away sort of their damage points or, you know, imposing some sort of like injury or, you know, weakness upon them or status condition.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Nihility is kind of one of the weird ones where there's a few characters that kind of break the mold in some certain ways, but for the most part, that's nihility. And then abundance will focus on healing. Preservation is shielding. There's currently 8 different paths in the game, with the path of remembrance being the newly added one in 3.0. We had 7 paths at the start of launch, but most recently they added remembrance, which is focusing on summoning an avatar to the team that acts on its own turn, has its own abilities.
It's one of my favorite play styles. Get a bunch of other dudes to fight for me.
Exactly. Granted, that also means those other dudes can take damage and die as well.
Yeah.
So you also have to like manage
pros and cons.
Yeah, pros and cons. But that's the path of remembrance. And so that's been really exciting to see how that's going to sort of synergize with the meta. And so the game has a live service format with a new patch released every 42 days with 2 character banner cycles in each one. And with each new major patch, generally speaking, comes either a new main story quest or like an interlude quest, which is like a little
so it's an ongoing story.
Yeah.
Okay.
So most recently we have gone to Amphorius, which is like this super secret place because it's so weird that the Trailblazer Akavili has never been here. They're going to a world that their Aeon has never been to. It's not on any map or data bank. So it's like, what is up with this place? Why is it nowhere?
Why doesn't anyone know about this?
Exactly.
Like, why haven't people been here?
So we're currently solving that mystery, and that's really exciting.
Does the finale or sort of conclusion of these individual storylines happen with the new releases or the new versions, or can you achieve the end of this story in the version that's currently playable?
Each patch, so I'll talk about 3.0 because that's the newest one. We have a lot of new information about it. In 3.0, they have said that there will be 8 patches worth of main story. So that means 3.0 through 3.8, we will be continuing the story of Amphorius in that time.
Got it.
Now, for other big major patches have been shorter. 2.0, we went to Penacony. That one wasn't 8 chapters of story. That one was a bit shorter, just to go a little bit more on the reception of the game, because it would be fun to have more friends playing this game.
We'll see.
It received an 80 out of 100 on Metacritic under PC and 82 out of 100 on PS5.
Is that a pretty average score, or is that considered
That's
good?
like a B.
Okay.
You know, it's 80 out of 100.
So it equivalent. It's got an equivalent.
IGN rated it a 9 out of 10. Eurogamer, Polygon, and Rock Paper Shotgun gave it either a recommended or positive review, since they don't do number scores.
Okay.
In 2023, it won Best Mobile Game at the Game Awards, won the iPhone Game of the Year, and won Best Game, Best Story, and Best for Tablets in the 2023 Google Play Awards.
Oh, so it kind of swept in 2023. Okay.
Yeah. 2 days after its release, the game had over 20 million downloads, and by patch 2.0, less than a year later, that number had reached over 100 million.
Dang.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about, this is like an international
This is
game.
Crazy. 'Cause
Yeah.
I've never heard of this.
Yeah. I mean, if you go to like Anime Expo, because I went to Anime Expo one year, almost every single cosplay I saw, and granted, when I went to Anime Expo, Honkai Star Rail had just released, so there weren't as many. But if we're just talking about like Genshin Impact, for every like one cosplay that I saw, there were like 9 Genshin Impact cosplays.
Got it. So
Like,
the Hoyoverse is
The
really...
Hoyoverse is extremely popular.
Got it.
Also, a lot of the character designs are really fun.
Okay.
So they can make for a lot of like fun costumes and fun cosplays. So a lot of people enjoy also like dressing up as these characters.
Yes.
So just to talk about like, I went over the background of the game, and so now I kind of want to talk about like the player experience.
Oh, please.
So I've been playing since week 1 of release.
Okay. When was that roughly?
That was April 26, 2023. So it's been about like year and a half or so that I have been playing, and playing mostly regularly. And generally speaking, when I'm playing games, the narrative is like the most important part for me.
Okay.
It's got to have a good story.
Yeah.
The gameplay is a lot of fun, but like actually getting good gear for your units was probably the most challenging aspect, because you are dealing with like the RNG of getting good stats on the pieces you want. So it can get a little bit time consuming.
Now, is this a difficult thing that's still enjoyable for you, or did that take away from the gameplay experience?
Eventually, it got to a point where I was like, I have enough okay gear pieces that I can do some of the harder content. Granted, I will say building characters for just going through the main story of the game wasn't really an issue, because they're not putting super hard content for you in the story mode.
Okay.
But if I wanted to do harder content, that was a lot harder to build for. Granted, because I've been playing so long, I've built so many characters. I have mostly passable gear on all of them.
But it takes a bit to get there.
But it takes a bit to get there for sure. And also, I should say, I am a free-to-play player, so I haven't spent much money on this.
I was about to ask, how much have you dumped into this?
I've done maybe like 10 or 15 over the past 2 years. Just
That's not bad.
Yeah, because like maybe there was a battle pass where there was like a character icon that was really cute that I wanted.
Okay, and you are saying $10, not $10,000.
No,
yeah,
no,
okay,
I'm saying
perfect.
like $10 over like 2
Cool.
years.
Could you dump $10,000 into this game? Do you think it's...
I can't say anything personally.
Yeah.
I have heard from others that people have like put their mortgages into this.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've just heard.
This is gambling.
I was
Technically
wondering.
Technically speaking, this is gambling.
Okay.
So, like with all gacha games, with all things that are loot box related, gambling related, you have to be very aware of like managing your money, your funds. If this is a habit that you're afraid you're going to get into, please be wary of it. Spend wisely. Obviously, you know your own financial situation. So if you have the money and if you're enjoying the game and you want to spend it, that's totally okay. But on the flip side, be aware.
As we do see things like that are on the rise. I mean, all these Twitch streamers with their gambling games and things.
And I mean, most recently, the conversation about CSGO go gambling
Yes.
has come up again. So just like with anything like that, it is very important to be mindful of. I don't think there's anything wrong with monetizing free-to-play games, because if you're having fun and if you're enjoying the game, if you want to spend a little bit of money, like $5 here and there,
It's a little treat.
It's a little treat. You're enjoying the game. You're supporting the developers. That's all fine and dandy.
Yeah, but just gotta keep an eye on
Just
your
keep an eye
checking
on
account.
it. Exactly. Don't whale.
Don't whale?
Do you know what you
No.
you know how? So
What's whale?
whaling is when you put a bunch of money into a game. Dolphins are like, I'm putting a little money.
Oh, it's a whole analogy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All
So you
right.
got dolphins and whales.
I put a dolphin amount of money into Wizards 101.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're not judging me for that.
I'll be honest, I don't know enough about
Good.
Wizards
It's a children's MMORPG.
Yeah, I played the free trial of that, which I think meant I got to play like none of the game.
Yeah, it's a massive. Well, I've got a video
Yeah, we got
on
a
Wizards
video.
101
We can talk
coming
more about
up,
that later.
okay?
Personal experience is, I'll be honest, 1.0 story quest did not really get me. It was, I don't know how to explain it. The game certainly has pacing issues. And I
Okay.
think it still does have pacing issues. I think it's gotten better. First thing is, I'm not the biggest sci-fi person.
Okay.
I love Star Wars, but like that's space opera fantasy. It's
Mhm.
not really like sci-fi. So I've never really been a sci-fi person. It's never been something that I've gravitated towards. There's some sci-fi works that I enjoy here and there. Just based off of that, it wasn't grabbing me, but I was like, I like Genshin Impact, let me keep playing. The 1.0 main story, in my experience, was very choppy and kind of went all over the place.
Oh, okay.
They do a lot of world building. And world building for this, because it's got this like this whole system with aeons and paths and all of these different organizations that fall under these different aeons, it can be very complicated. So there is a lot of exposition because they want you to understand enough of the world,
yeah.
but it can drag on certain areas. But then there will definitely be times where suddenly the action ramps up a lot and things get really exciting. You have these really big set piece boss battles that are very
Ooh.
cool. But then there's other times where it's like, I think I clearly missed a conversation because this giant deer just showed up and now I have to fight it and I don't know what's going on. That'll make sense to people who have played the story.
No, I'm sure most of this will make sense to
Yeah.
more people than I.
But the first area that you start in is called the Herta Space Station. Like that area was pretty chill. That was kind of like your tutorial level.
Okay.
Then you go to Belobog, or Urilo 6 is the name of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
But the people of that planet don't leave it, so they just know it as Belobog, so it's kind of called both. But you go to Belobog, and so that story is like much more contained, and I think it was a lot more exciting for players who had played Honkai Impact 3rd, which I haven't, because there were a lot of characters in that story who were XPs from Honkai Impact 3rd.
Okay, and that was a previous edition.
That was a
of
previous Honkai game.
Okay, cool. Honkai is the series, and
Yeah.
that is just a different game.
Yeah,
right?
so
Okay.
so characters like Bronya and Kikolia and Sela were characters who showed up in Honkai Impact 3rd and had XPs in
Okay, cool.
Honkai Star Rail. So I imagine if I had played that, it would have been like exciting to see,
Sure.
but like I didn't. So I was kind of like, this is okay. I'm still in it. And then the following world you go to, which is the Xianzhou Lafu.
Xianzhou Lafu.
Xianzhou Lafu.
Xianzhou Lafu.
It's very much inspired by Chinese culture.
Okay.
So a lot of the names are also
Got
from
it.
that.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you weren't already familiar with the Chinese language and many of their phonetic,
You're gonna get
definitely
familiar.
will be after this. That one was one where there were definitely like really like crazy things happening, and then by the end the conclusion was great, but like it felt a little
Getting there is a little windy.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then by the time the 2.0 story started, that one, there was a very clear shift in quality.
Oh.
Like all of a sudden, like we were in it. It was exciting. It was awesome. We were in a very different world that was very much inspired by like, how do I say this? Like the golden era of Disney animation.
Oh.
vibes. Yeah.
Wow, that's a vibe shift.
Yeah, exactly. So it was very retro, 1950s.
That's cool.
Like
Okay.
film industry, like very
Golden Age of Hollywood.
Exactly.
Okay.
And that story, like there was definitely a clear shift when it came to writing and characterization. Much, much stronger. I ended up enjoying that one a lot more. The characters, I think, also were ones that I really enjoyed watching. Granted, I think a very big asterisk with Honkai Star Rail and especially 2.0 is the camera movement isn't very dynamic.
Oh.
So there's a lot of times where characters are just talking and the camera, there's just a static camera going between the two.
Okay.
So for someone like me who is really story invested, that doesn't bother me. With all these different story patches, I would say that there is a clear improvement from 1.0 to 2.0 to 3.0. So if space fantasy is like an enjoyable thing to you, if you like turn-based combat, if you like exciting characters, if you like dialogue heavy storytelling, definitely 100% I would highly recommend looking into it. And I personally would give it like a 4 out of 5. You know,
Ooh, okay.
it's like a pretty solid game. It has its flaws, but if you enjoy a good story, if you enjoy a fun story, like something that I love is the main character, the trailblazer, if you will. That's kind of how they're referred to in the game. Can give a lot of very like funny, sarcastic answers. There's a lot of like sci-fi references, like the number 42.
Oh.
And like also very like fourth wall breaking. So coincidental that somebody has showed up in the script to take a photo for us. Like,
oh, that's cute.
Yeah, so very much like very fun pointing jokes and both celebrating and joking about a lot of the tropes that exist within the sci-fi genre, but then also having those spaces for those really heartwarming and important stories or those sad moments, those emotional moments.
Aww.
So I would highly recommend taking a look at it. But before we end, I just wanted to sort of interject to talk about the video game actor strike, which started on July 26, 2024. We are now in 2025 and it is still ongoing. So to give a little bit of background for people who may not know, after about 18 months of negotiation, SAG-AFTRA and the video game actors have decided to go on strike, mostly for the protection against AI for a lot of these voice actors and mocap actors who are working on video games, and they just have not been able to reach an agreement with these studios in order to continue to record a lot of these voice lines. There are many studios and projects that have been impacted by this, and Honkai Star Rail is no exception, especially when it comes to playing the game in English. You will find as you're playing the story, there will be characters who are major characters who are just not voiced while other ones are. Hoyo has come out and said that due to scheduling issues, these actors were not able to record their lines
before the strike.
But in the future, they are planning to, once available, will schedule those actors to record for them and add all of their lines to the quest afterwards.
Okay.
So there is like, if you're going to be playing this a lot later, you may not actually feel any of these. But if you're playing right now, like I did, there were some major characters in 3.0 that just didn't have voice lines while other ones did. And it is very important to not go after any of the voice actors because of this. This is not their choice. Protections against AI for these actors is extremely key because a lot of these companies, not necessarily Hoyo, but a lot of these companies want to use these people's motions or voice and then put them into train their AI model with them so that way they can use them in perpetuity and not, give residuals for those works. And, these are working actors, these are working people. They wouldn't keep hiring this talent if that quality and those performances weren't important to them. It's very imperative that we continue to support these actors in their strike and we enjoy the works that they are in and celebrate them, even if they're not necessarily working for that patch or for that project. So that is just one thing to keep in mind if you're going through the game. It happens. It's okay.
It seems that the video game industry is holding out a lot longer because the SAG-AFTRA strike resolved after a few months, I believe, and they got their protections or started working with exclusively production companies that would allow for protections against AI for these actors. But it seems like, if we're at 6-7 months with the voice actor strike, these video game production companies are not letting up.
Because it would be, technically speaking, a lot cheaper if we just say, hey, we've recorded all of your lines for how much of this game, let's just put it into an AI model and just not have to hire you again. There's nothing right about that.
No, it's good for the company who needs to make a bottom line, but at the same time, these people are making profits beyond our imagination.
Exactly. So everyone deserves to work. Everyone deserves to get paid for their work. And at the end of the day, these are artists, these are actors, these are performers, even outside of HSR because they don't do mocap. But for ones who do, who hire trained stunt actors and professionals to do a lot of these very difficult movements, that is something that these people should be paid for. And we shouldn't have companies trying to exploit that for, their own dime. So that is just something to keep in mind. And of course, we support the actors in their strike. And please do not attack any of the actors who are not able to record their voice lines for this because this is not their choice. End of story.
Yes.
Otherwise, I hope maybe I can convince you to join us on the Star Rail.
I am a big fan of sci-fi. I very much enjoy a sci-fi world and a universe and jumping across the stars. So I could give it a try. I am just concerned that I'm going to get real into something. Like when I got into Baldur's Gate, I didn't stop till I had about 200 hours down.
Well, luckily, I don't think there's really 200 hours worth of content to do. I mean, maybe I'm wrong because I've been playing it little by little over such a long time.
Yeah.
But it is a lot of fun. And also, we didn't even jump into this, but there's a lot of queer coding.
Oh?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So actually, something that's very key is this is a game that is published and developed by a studio in China. And China has very specific rules that were first really felt by Genshin Impact with certain characters had to have their character models changed a bit in the outfits that they were wearing.
They had to be more modest?
They had to be a little bit more modest. There was another character that was sort of quoted as being against a trope that the Chinese Communist Party was like against. They were basically against any characters who were male, but you wouldn't know they were male or female unless you looked at their lore.
Oh, okay. So any kind of androgynous or
like androgyny or like feminine presenting men. They were very much any like overtly queer content. But Honkai Impact 3rd, which of course predates Honkai Star Rail, was very well known for that game. Only had female playable characters. Only.
Ooh, we don't see that.
Yeah, which is also why for 3.0, a lot of the XPs of male characters from that game, people are very excited for them because it means that they can finally play them in this game. But because there was an all-female cast, there were a lot of characters who were best friends,
Historians say they're best friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Good friends,
really close. There's a lot of Reddit threads and documentation that basically go through all the different like lines that these characters tell each other, where it's very clear that they were written with the intent of being closer than friends.
So you think it was written with that true intention too, and it's not just fans reading into
100%. Like, unfortunately, I didn't write any of them down, but like I was reading through some of them and it was just friends don't say this to each other.
Yeah.
Like this is very clear that there was a rule put in place that they could not have any queer characters, and so they did their loopholes the way that they can. Even in Honkai Star Rail, there's two characters who I have heard supposedly, apparently in like some of the like codex entries of the game, there is gay poetry about them.
Oh, Sappho would be proud.
Yeah. And by gay, I mean like men loving men. Yeah.
I think Sappho would still be proud.
Yeah. No, 100%. But like the Chinese poetry, it was written and it can have multiple different interpretations. And it was very romantic in nature.
Okay. We might have to take another episode to discuss this
probably.
a little bit more in the Hoyoverse.
Yeah, no, the queer coding of Hoyoverse could definitely be one of them. Especially, I think, in 3.0 because it is very like Greek and Roman inspired. And there were two gods who, not Aeons, but like two gods on Amphorius who, if you look at their lore, they were romantic lovers and they were both women. You know, if you also love a little bit of like, I
like queer coding. I'm here for it.
Exactly. Yeah. A little bit sprinkled here and there. It's a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, I think you've just convinced me.
Yeah?
Yeah. I would give it a try. I genuinely would.
Honestly, I probably should have started with that. Like,
yeah, you know what? Knowing me, you probably should have.
Yeah, no, I probably should have started with it's a little gay. Okay. Also, we're in space.
Really, the only two things you needed to say, we didn't need to do this whole episode, actually.
Yeah. I would say
cool.
definitely give it a shot.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for introducing me to the world of Honkai. And I just appreciate the background and learning about all the intricacies and sort of breaking it down for me as a much less experienced gamer in comparison to your game dev skills.
Yeah, unfortunately, this might get you into a bunch of different gacha games because
Seems like a wormhole.
I kind of started with one and then I kept picking up more and now I'm at to like 4 different ones, which are probably like baby numbers compared to some other people. Wow. But, you know, it's a lot of fun. Yeah, go play Honkai Star Rail version 3.0 out right now. Also, best time to play any of these games is when they have a major update because that's when they're rolling out all the rewards and the in-game currency stuff. Right. So yeah, definitely the best time to do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Sana. Again, that's Sana. I'm Van. This has been Gaymer Girls.
This has been Gaymer Girls, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah, like, subscribe, follow, all of that good stuff.